Alright, so this is my first video response to the Logic Church. I was part of Logic Church number 4 and number 5. Number four was a little bit different. First time putting a video out on the internet, got a little jittery, a little excited. Um, but yeah, Logic Church number 5 was a disaster because of this aluminum, whatever you want to call him, this Gary guy. And so, um, one thing that I thought was a little bit bizarre is that, out of respect to Logic Church, and the Logic Zone only, I rewatched the video and I was very mindful of my behavior in consideration to them not knowing me personally, and I try to keep things more professional so that we can converse and really get somewhere as far as sharing and exchanging information to, not only enrich ourselves but the few people that choose to tune in. And man, I personally don't like disrespecting people because it's not really, I guess, fun. It's not a very good reason not to disrespect someone, but that's just my reason. And I was dealing with Gary, and he would behave in the exact manner that I kind of was the previous Logic Church number 4. He was all like being rambling, interruptive, loud. He was making crazy gestures on the camera, and it was weird. It was like I was kind of like, I guess, karma. I was dealing with the behavior that I exhibited at the previous week, but then there was like a weird, like paradigm shift. He's supposed to be this like critically acclaimed and extremely intelligent individual, and he just struck me as very disrespectful, vulgar, animated. He was not particularly considerate to what anyone had to say. Anyone who made a contribution to the conversation was immediately ridiculed with asinine analogies that had little to do with the situation, that wasn't even expanded upon for the understanding of the audience and the person he said it to. And then he would just like, so he would just go off, and I'm like, damn, he's good. He's not good at anything good, but he's good at whatever that is he calls himself doing. And I made efforts to try to really observe this time around in Logic Church number 5, but there were just some things that were said that weren't substantiated with evidence. And then when I made my opinion in regards to it not being substantiated by evidence, they would ask me to substantiate it by evidence. And so, one thing I can't stand is the constant mentioning of a cognitive bias. At one point during Logic Church number 5, there was this guy named True who had remarked, after I had said this quote from a book, that if he's gay, that means God's gay. And previously, during the whole conversation, he had shared with me the infemination of the black man. In fact, I actually took notes on the references that he wanted me. It says the infemination of the black male. And that's just the level of respect that I bring to the Logic Church whenever I come there. If there's a resource available to me that they're willing to provide so that I can enhance and increase my capacity to understand and be more relevant in their conversations, I will be more than happy to make a note of it, and whenever I have time available, I'll research it. But anyways, I was like a little bit stunned when he said that, because I'm like, how did you just recommend a book to me called the Infeminization of a Black Male, and then jokingly remark that you're gay because of the quote that I had mentioned? I'm like, how did you do that, dude? And the cognitive dissonance that he was experiencing had led him to believe that I took offense from the notion of God being gay. I wasn't offended at him saying God is gay. I don't need to take offense of any insults towards God because I'm not like the avenger of God. I'm not a Muslim. But yet he goes on into this long tangent about how I'm being offended from God being called gay, which was not the case at all. And the conversation went off in a direction that made no sense to me. That was one instance of cognitive dissonance. Another instance of cognitive dissonance that occurred during this Logic Church was in regards to, I think it was the, I think her name was Athena, or was it well, anywho's, I had mentioned Chipotle having all natural ingredients in their food and they don't use GMO, and that if the option is available, I would choose to have all natural foods. I'm not trying to say I'm anti-GMO. I'm saying I'm pro all natural foods. And their cognitive dissonance had led them to believe that I'm a wacky conspiracy theorist that is terrified of GMO. And I'm trying to kind of state my claim, hey, that's not what I think. You're thinking I think that because of your cognitive dissonance. That's not the case at all. But the conversation just proceeded. And of course, I respectfully waited for an opportunity to talk. But before I could even say anything, they went on to vaccinations. And they assumed that I am anti-vaccination. Like, they assumed so freaking much. And then after making all of these assumptions based off of the things that I said that were completely inaccurate, they then told me that I should look up cognitive bias. Really? Look, I'm not really here to trash talk or anything, but there's just something that just needs to be said, and it's mainly towards Logic Zone. I don't know if you even care to watch this video, bro, but how do you kick me out of the conversation, and then after you kick me out of the conversation, take the opportunity to put words in my mouth and say things that I didn't say and try to, like, basically destroy any validity I had as far as contributing to the conversation goes? How do you do that? That is the most cowardice act in the history of intellectual conversation I've ever seen. You would be hitch slapped for that, Logic Zone. You really would be hitch slapped for that. I mean, that was just the most conniving, backstabbing, underhanded bitch move I've ever experienced in the history of the whole freaking world, coming from somebody who runs a YouTube channel called the Logic Zone Only. I just don't have any words. It doesn't make any sense. I've already established that I have a relatively decent level of intelligence. I already established that, in spite of my religious upbringings and my personal faith in Jesus Christ, that I can be impartial in the interest of understanding others, to not only listen to them, but to listen to parts of myself that I didn't know were speaking, to hear my opinions about issues I never thought about, to not only enhance myself, but to add an insight to it that maybe they never even heard of either. In the interest of growing and nurturing and cultivating knowledge and wisdom and logic. And the icing on the cake, one of the people in the hangout said, "Anthony, I am going to kill you." And that's just where I had to just take a step back and realize they hate me, they hate God, and they hate all of mankind, especially Gary. They're very hateful people, and they're using their $5 words to try to justify hatred. They're no different than the radical Christians that are hating on homos that I have to fight tooth and nail to distinguish myself from. They're hateful. They're just hateful, arrogant jerks. And they don't have to be. I feel like every time I show up, they all make asses of themselves to just try to disrespect me, only to be disrespecting everything that they stand for, by showing cognitive bias and illogical behavior and irrational reactions to statements instead of inquiring as to how it can be explained to them. I mean, when I said you have to think illogically sometimes to make logic more logic, it went over their heads so high, like way up there, all up in the sky. And for people who claim to be critical thinkers, you'd think they would make sense of what I said. All I was saying is that as we continue to progress and discover new things, we might reach a point where the rules that we're used to comfortably operating on might not explain something new and interesting, and that we have to understand the core principles behind what we believe in order to gauge a new idea and make sense of it as well. I said that to them, and they all didn't get it. It broke my freaking heart, man. They threatened to kill me, and they didn't understand their own ideology. I've never met such a lost group of arrogant assholes in my entire life. And as far as my participation in Logic Church goes, I do not feel comfortable conversing with them because they are very disrespectful. They're very rude. They project onto me qualities that are basically beneficial to substantiate their claims instead of being impartial and understanding me as an individual. They try to tell me what I believe based off of whatever criteria that they have in their mind in regards to Christianity. And fuck y'all. Like, seriously, if anybody from Logic Zone is watching, fuck all y'all. From the bottom of my fucking heart.